I've really been saying the same thing in different ways from the very beginning, which is in Saudi Arabia, Andrew, you really have three options. We could have an election. We could have democracy, in which case a lot of guys with big bushy beards who don't speak English and come from the core of the mosque will take over. Probably not something good for them or for us. You could have the old regime where you had each member of the family had their kind of fief, their own ministry, which they milked literally like a cow for themselves. And it gave you reform at about 5 miles an hour. And that was sending Saudi Arabia into this really slow but steady decline. Or you can have MBS. MBS is not a Democrat, doesn't aspire to be a Democrat. He's an authoritarian modernizer. He has some really good instincts and some really bad instincts. The good instincts, I think, are on social transformation and on bringing Islam back to a center. The really bad ones are a tendency to both make a power grab and a money grab, and this has to do with a lot of internal dynamics within the family. From the very beginning, I said, look, how this Ritz-Carlton story ends, where they put all these billionaires in an anti-corruption campaign, really matters. If it ends with transparency and accountability, that's going to be an opening for foreign investors. But if it ends with opacity and abuse, as our paper has really revealed, the message to foreign investors is, geez, if I come to Saudi Arabia with my money or partner with a Saudi, can he or I end up hanging upside down from a ceiling in the Ritz-Carlton? And without foreign investment, Andrew, not just in Aramco, you guys were talking about that the other day, but more broadly in the Saudi economy, they can't make the reform transition. So I'm glad the paper has been exposing this. I think it's an important message to them. They need to let these guys out. They need to clean it up. They need to create a transparent, accountable mechanism for dealing with this anti-corruption. The point I was making in that column, it was a phony letter from the U.S. ambassador to Saudi Arabia, if we had one. We have no ambassador in Saudi Arabia. We have no permanent assistant secretary of state, even for Near East. MBS, everybody in life needs a coach. He needs one too. He needs an American, I think, outside figure who he could trust and who could engage with him. Tillerson wasn't that.
So he's going to be here though next week, and he's going to not only meet with the president, he's going to meet with a number of business leaders, all across the country. How should they feel given these reports about this abuse, about doing business there right now?
I hope they're very blunt about it, that this is not an environment we can do business in. We need accountability. We need transparency. That's the only way we can commit long-term funds to the kingdom. The thing you got to remember about, I think MBS always, he's 32, hasn't really spent much time out of Saudi Arabia, did not study outside of Saudi Arabia like so many young Saudis. And so, to me, Andrew, he's the only guy there with the guts to do the boldness to do the massive social and religious reform that he's undertaken. It's amazing and it's important. And he's the only guy there with the boldness and the recklessness to engage in the kind of foreign policy adventures he's engaged in Yemen, Qatar, Lebanon, and to pull off this kind of combination anti-corruption shakedown operation. You got the good MBS and you got the bad MBS. Perfect's not on the menu. Our job, I think, is to try to get more of the good and to really curb the bad stuff, and that's all you can do.